Karen O'Toole with you, and we're having a special conversation today about missing persons cases here in the state of Pennsylvania. Now, of course, a lot of these cases are often receive and garner national attention and really dominate the 24-hour news cycle, but those happen to be a very small minority of the total number of missing people cases. Now, while many people are recovered quickly, here in Pennsylvania, we have about 400 unresolved missing person cases. Now, recently, the Pennsylvania State House passed a bill to help law enforcement collect more data on these cases and to get answers for these families. Right now, we have State Representative Linda Culver. She's a co-author of this bill, and she'll be joining us along with Norma Jean Fritzasco. Her son, Jesse, went missing in 2015 from the Tamaqua area. I want to thank you both for joining us today.
Thank you for having us.
Norma, I wanted to speak with you first about your son, Jesse. Now, people in the Tamaqua area listening, they might remember when your son went missing. Tell us about your son and the events that led up to his disappearance in 2015.
At approximately 8 p.m., and I might be a little bit off with the time, but it was August 11th, 2015, he supposedly made a frantic phone call to his ex-girlfriend where he said, there's coyotes after him, 10 to 12. He's up behind the high school in a tree. His battery's dying. Bring guns. Now, the thing about that phone call is the only fact that we know is his phone called her phone. Other than that is technically hearsay. I don't believe many people in this town believe there were coyotes after him. We've all kind of surmised that. However, the question is, what was really said? Approximately 3 hours later, she went to the police station and reported him missing, or reported what happened, rather. I'm not really sure what went on in those 3 hours. According to her and her brother, they went into the mountains with guns. Apparently nothing came out of that. 2 days later, which would have been Thursday, around noon, I believe it was scheduled for, was a full-blown search.
Yes.
So there was a National Guard helicopter, to the best of my remembering. I believe that's what it was. Most of the community was on the mountain. Some people had quads. Everybody came to help. There were television stations, newspaper reporters, dogs, search dogs. It was a pretty big thing. They had found, supposedly, again, I saw this, so I'm not really sure what to think of it. There was a scuff mark around the outside of an air shaft. Now, what I learned over the years is there's bootleg air shafts and there's ones recorded. I'm not sure which one this was, but it was supposedly 900 to 1,200 feet deep. Totally not blocked off, just out there in the open. So a dog hit on whatever that mark was. So the search and rescue party put a camera down there, but my understanding is the camera broke. So they had another camera donated from Canada, and they raised funds for the shipping costs to bring this in. They put that camera into the hole, and nothing came of it. And it was pretty much like, okay, well, we didn't find anything, bye. And then that was it. The only people left searching were awesome community members, myself, my family, and that was pretty much walking the mountain over and over and over. When I asked for a report about what they found in the hole, they said, well, there's no report, nothing. So I had nothing to look at, tangible. Nothing to see, nothing tangible whatsoever. So it kind of always left this up in the air. Okay, so you didn't find anything, so okay, bye. I mean, it was very much disheartening. About a year and a half later, his backpack was found in a tree by a hunter, a local hunter. It would have been found the year prior, which would have been a few months after Jesse went missing, except they didn't hunt there that year. Right. Authorities never took the backpack. I actually have it.
Okay.
When I called them and asked them if they wanted it, they actually said no.
A lot of people might be listening and thinking they see cases like Gabby Petito, and you just see the media frenzy that takes place. And as you said, at the time in 2015, There were a lot of people. You sound very grateful for the community, a lot of community members, people just coming out with their four-wheelers, really wanting to help you find your son, taking up this cause as if it were their own. Days turn into weeks, turn into months, turn into years. And as we mentioned earlier, there's 400 cases in Pennsylvania missing people, some decades.
466 at the moment.
466, okay, so over 400. And sometimes decades people don't have answers. Right now, what is the state of your son's case and cases like your son's?
Typically, they're not closed. They remain open, but they're called cold cases. They're considered cold cases. It's actually missing persons is considered a silent mass disaster. There is actually in the nation, I believe, 21,000 reported. But then you go into a different aspect of it. There's unclaimed people. There's 12,000. Then you go into unidentified, which are body parts,
Yes.
This is where my mind blows because this is stuff I have to research as a mother who has a missing son. So there's 13,884 unidentified bodies and or body parts out there. So
Yes, it's breathtaking.
It's a lot. Yeah.
And that's where this system comes into place. And I'm going to bring Linda in the conversation. You have introduced a bill and has passed this Pennsylvania State House. We're talking about, unfortunately, a very difficult topic of, as you said, body parts, DNA. And you have actually introduced House Bill 930. You co-authored it with a fellow colleague in the State House. Could you tell us a little bit about NamUs, this system, and how it helps families find answers and also gives tools to local police departments?
Sure. Thank you for having me on the show. I did co-sponsor House Bill 930 with Representative Dave Millard from Columbia County. And to simply put it, House Bill 930 creates a powerful tool for criminal justice agencies for resolving missing, unidentified, and unclaimed person cases. And by reporting information into the NamUs system, we bring people, information, forensic science, and technology together. And that in itself is a very powerful tool. But one of the most unique things about the NamUs system is we provide families with some control over the situation. It allows them to report into into the system, any personal information, any information that may identify their loved one. And they can check the site. And NamUs, as of the most recent years, also now offers some counseling and some other resources for families of missing persons. And once somebody is identified and or located, they also offer services to that individual and with reuniting the families. So it is really all encompassing, and it brings all of that technology. And as you know, technology is just getting better and better with all of our law enforcement.
Now, I understand if this bill becomes the law, this will only make Pennsylvania only the 11th state, I believe, to actually be mandatory to be reporting to NamUs. Is that correct?
Correct. Yep.
Has there been any information from other states or any results from other states that show that NamUs really is helpful in closing these cases and finding answers?
Well, you were asking specifics how NamUs can help. I have a perfect example. Mm-hmm. So my son's been missing 6 years. A year after he went missing, there was a skull found 20 miles away from Tamaqua. I don't recall the name of the town. It was said to be a male around Jesse's age. I had an anonymous phone call one day saying that a state trooper from Frackville called the detective in charge of my son's case and asked for dental records for Jesse. Ultimately found out it was to match up with a skull, to see if it was a match. I reached out to Frackville, got the trooper on the phone, and he said, yes, he was told by the detective in charge of my son's case that didn't have dental records. In all actuality, the detective should have been able to say, well, everything's on NamUs. Okay, number one. Yeah. But number two, if this law was already passed, that skull would have already been put into NamUs. This was only a couple years ago. I took my son's dental records to the coroner's office, along with another young man, Seth Musket, who has been missing in Tamaqua since 2014. Okay, fell off the face of the earth. Nobody knows what happened to this kid. They turned out to not be a match. But if one of them were a match, that would have saved the family 3 years of grief. How much money it would have saved? Police officers. But there, as a mom, I'm taking dental records to a coroner's office. So if I would not have had that anonymous tip, this just would have lingered. Just say it was Jesse or it was Seth. When would that have turned out to be a match?
Yes, and it provides a way, as you said, for families to contribute. And a lot of times in these cold cases, it seems as though a lot of the burden is on the families.
All of
to
the
keep
burden.
This
Listen,
alive.
if you research this like I have,
Yes.
everywhere you turn, every organization you talk to is run by a mom. And they will say, when the mom stops looking, it's over.
Yeah.
Nobody looks. And it's very true. This is what brought me to form the nonprofit. I named it Where's Jesse? It is an advocacy for families of the missing. And it's also a way to keep my son's name and face out there and other people in the area who are missing. And then it took a turn to contact Linda. After I went through a half dozen other state reps, by the way, she's the only one who helped me.
When a mother is the person that continues to search for her child, this is every mother's nightmare. Whether your son or daughter is 50 years old, it is your worst nightmare, especially to not have these answers. When was the moment? I can imagine that as a mom, you have maternal instincts. When was the moment that you realized that he didn't just lose his cell phone, his phone wasn't dead, that you might never see your son again alive?
I still haven't realized that. No.
Yeah.
The first 2 years, my very first instinct was no, he just took off. And I believed that for 2 years. And then I went down the rabbit hole with the rumors. They're probably the most horrendous things anyone could ever hear about someone they love. But in all actuality, honestly, there's no proof either way if he's dead or alive. There's no proof.
Yeah.
A lot of these missing persons end up homeless and they don't want to come back. And I've touched on that. I've touched on everything you can think of. Everything. The rumors, to him disappearing on his own, to him having amnesia and being homeless, to him just being homeless. On a daily basis, I'm literally ready for a nap at this time of the day. If I'm even up by this time of the day, because I was up all night the night before. So it's just a vicious cycle.
Systems like NamUs that hopefully will become law, become a requirement and a tool for law enforcement and a tool for families like yourself. A lot of times these cases, there's a missing piece to the puzzle that happens to be a person that might be listening. Someone out there right now could be listening to this, and perhaps they have just a tidbit of information.
This is how I describe it.
Yes.
It's a 1,000-piece puzzle that you've had since you were little, and there's never 1,000 pieces. At the end of the day, there's always a piece missing. Sometimes you find a piece under the couch when you're cleaning. Sometimes they end up in a dumpster and you'll never find them. But that's how I describe it.
Yes.
It's like a big puzzle was thrown up in the air. And there are missing pieces out there that somebody has.
There might be somebody listening, and maybe perhaps they even think, no, I'm crazy. I didn't see what I saw that day. That wasn't him. They might be doubting themselves or questioning themselves and have not come forward. What would you say to that person that, as I said, they might just have one little tidbit of information that could be the key to unlock the mystery, as you said, not just for your son, but perhaps somebody else?
Anybody. Dig down deep. And if there's something you want to say it. It could stay anonymous. I suggest calling me. I am not going to break at this point. I haven't yet, so I won't break. Anybody can tell me anything, and it's like it doesn't even affect me anymore. But there is one question I can't seem to get answered that could be very simple, and maybe nobody's thinking it's a big deal, but My son supposedly got into a black car. The make and model's unknown, but something about possible damage or faded paint or something on this vehicle. It was either a black car, dark blue car, possibly if it was at night, it could have been a maroon color and looked black. I'm not really sure, but there's something that maybe somebody saw that they think is no big deal. If the whole community could just think, maybe they know of a car like that. Jesse's story, and it consists of only facts, is on his missing person page, and it's called Jesse Lee Farber Missing. Then there's a separate Facebook altogether that is the nonprofit for the missing, and that is called Where's Jesse? Okay. So if anybody wants to go on there and like it and share it, there's actually a part on the Jesse Lee Farber Missing that says, this is my story. And every once in a while, I will add to it. And my phone number's on there. My phone number's not private.
Okay.
Anybody can text me, call me. Text me from a fake app number. It doesn't matter.
Well, Linda, I want to thank you for your work. I know I can tell Norma is very grateful for you listening to your constituents here in Pennsylvania. And just thank you for joining us and taking the time to talk with us today.
Thank you for having me. And, I want to say thank you for Norma Jean for continuing to search for her son, continuing to work with other families and bringing this to our attention. And, we say that, this is a centralized database. So as she described earlier, she had to run the dental records. It was something else she had to do. And this system will help, disseminate all the information that's needed for law enforcement and when they're looking for it. But, one of the things we've said about NEMIS from the beginning is maybe not today or even tomorrow will this help solve the case of a missing person, but perhaps someday it will. And I think that gives us the hope that we need to cling to help these families.
Yes, thank you. And Norma Jean, I know here on behalf of everyone at the station, I can remember when your son first went missing, and it's hard to believe that 6 years has gone by. And I can't even begin to imagine the pain that you must feel as a mother. As I said earlier, it has to be your worst nightmare. But we just wish you so much luck and prayers that you would get those answers. Meeting you today, you're a firebrand, and I know you will continue to search.
Thank you.
Well, thank you again, Norma Jean Fritzatsko, as well as State Representative Linda Culver here with us today. As I know Norma mentioned earlier, she does have a page on Facebook, Where's Jesse? So you can find out more information. We hope that like as I said, that bill will pass the Senate and that will become law here in the state of Pennsylvania, help find answers for families and definitely help equip our law enforcement. Well, again, Karen O'Toole with you, and we thank you for listening to this conversation on your local station, WLSH.